Alright, in the previous lecture we have discussed mathematical operations in Python. Now there might be situations that when we have a number that has a long list of numbers after a decimal point. So for example, if I divide 8 by 3 and print out this one to the console, you will see that the value is 2.6666. So it continues like this. So right now you can see that this is a floating number. But if I just wanted to convert it to integer, you can see that all it does is it just chops off everything after decimal point over here. So if I just convert it to integer over here, you'll see that all decimal places is removing from this code over here. So if I run it, you see that it's going to print out only 2 in this case. But in reality, what we will do traditionally is to round the number. Now, if the number is 2.5, so we are rounding it to 3. If the number is less than 2.5, we are rounding it to 2 in this case. Now in Python, it's super easy to round numbers. All you have to do, you have to use round function like this. So here, instead of int over here, if I put round over here, it's going to round our number to this number over here. Now you see that, as you remember, when we divided 8 by 3, we get 2.666, so it's greater than 2.5, so this means that it's rounding it to 3 over here. Now if you want, you can actually go a step further. You can specify the number of digits of precision if you want to round it. So if I put inside the round function like this, so after expression, if I put comma 2, it's going to round our number by 2 precision. So if I run our code now, in this case, you will see that. So in this case, 2.666 recurring becomes 2.67. So as I said, because we have mentioned that it should round to 2 decimal places. Now instead of 8 divided by 3, if I put over here 2.6666 is something like this and run our code, you will see that in this case also it's returning the same result. So it's rounding this number by 2 precision, so by recurring it's becoming 2.67 over here. Now in Python, we know that whenever we divide any number by any other number, the result always turned into be a floating point number. If you didn't want that and you just wanted an integer number, a whole number chopping off all other numbers after the decimal place, you can just use, instead of division over here, floor division. So floor division can be used in Python by 2 forward slash over here. So if I put forward slash over here and remove this rounding from here and printing out this variable to the console, you will see that in this case it's going to print to the console the integer number. So it's taking the floor number of the result and converting it to integer in this case. Now in fact, if I go ahead and check the type of this result from here, you will see that the type of this result is integer. Now if I run it, you will see that it's integer. But if I put division over here and printing out the type of the result over here, you will see that in this case it's floating. Now in case of division, if I put, for example, over here 2, we know that division is clean, so we can divide 8 by 2 without any remainder. So if I run it, you will see that in this case also it's returning float, because in Python, whenever we're dividing one number by another number, the result always is floating number. So we have decimal places in this case. So if you don't want decimal places after division, you can use, as we mentioned before here, floor division. So the result from floor division is always integer. Now here, for example, if I save the result of the operation into a variable, something like this, then one of the things that you can actually do is to continue to performing calculations on this variable over here. For example, if I want to divide this result by 2 also, we can write something like this. So I can put it like this: result divide equal by 2. So if I put something like this, it's going to take this result variable over here and it's going to divide it by 2 one more time and assigning to this result type over here. Now after doing so, if I print out to the console, you will see that in this case it's going to print out to the console 1, because in this case 4 divided by 2 is 2, so 2 divided by 2 is 1. So if I run our code, you will see that in this case it's returning 1. So here we are using division, so that's why the result is floating number, so that's why after 1 we have 1.0 over here. Now very often when we are writing code, let's say if you are keeping a track of user score, so initially we are starting from the score is equal to 0, then every time the score increases, we are going to assign that increased value to this score over here. So instead of writing score is equal to score plus 1, for example, every time it's increased by 1, we can write something like this, which makes our code easier. So we can put plus and equal and 1. Now with this, our score will be increased by 1. So in this case, if we call print function for this score variable over here, you will see that it's holding the value of 1 in this case. Now we can do the same operation for the subtraction, we can do for division, we can do it for multiplication as well. So whatever we'll put after equal sign over here is going to multiply by that value that we have put over here. So in this case, it's going to multiply every time by 1. So if I put, for example, 2 over here, it's going to multiply it by 2, and it continues like. So this way of writing the code, this is really handy when you have to manipulate a value based on its previous value, which you will have to do a lot in the programming. Now the final thing I want to show you is something called f-strings. So this makes our life really easy to mix strings and different types of data types together. So let's say we have a score variable like this, which is the type of integer, and we have another variable in which we are keeping the height, and we have another variable which is Boolean variable. For example, we said that is winning is equal to true in this case. So we have 3 different variables over here. Each of them is in different data types. So if I want to print out to the console, for example, something like that, print your score is plus score, for example. And if I run our code, you will see that in this case we have type error over here because this score is integer type and we have string type over here, so we cannot concatenate them. So in this case we have to convert this one to string and run our code. You will see that in this case it's working correct because when we are concatenating two variables, they have to be the same data type. Now in this case, if I want to concatenate all variables over here, I have to convert everything to string, then concatenate together. Now this is quite painful because you need to convert all of them to the string, and this is very time consuming. So a lot of programmers will need some slightly more convenient way of incorporating things that we have different data types. So in such cases, f-strings are really handy. Now in this case, if I write something like this, for example, I'm going to just delete this part from here and put it something like this. Before this string, if I put f before this double quotes over here, then we can concatenate all these variables over here without converting them to string. So all we have to do, we have to put these variables inside curly brackets over here. So if I put curly brackets over here and put this score, you'll see that it's going to print out this score to the console without concatenating it. So if I just print out this one to the console, you'll see that in this case we don't need to concatenate anything over here. So if I run our code, you will see that the core is perfectly working. So without converting this integer score variable to the string, we have mixed them in one sentence. So similarly, we can write another variables over here without doing any conversion. So in this case, so I can put that the height is, so inside curly brackets we can put something like this, height, and similarly we can put your winning is, we can put inside curly brackets the type of boolean over here. So I'm just going to copy it from here and paste it over here and run our code. You see that it's printing out to the console, your score is 0, the height is 18, and your winning is true. So without converting any of these variables to string, we have put them in the same string over here. So in case in our programs, if we want to mix all different types of variables into one sentence, in this case, f-string is really handy. So instead of converting all these variables into strings and using a whole bunch of plus signs, we can just use something in Python known as f-string. So in these cases, f-string is really important. Now here, you need to take into account that this f that comes before straight away this double quotation over here. You can put single quotes or double quotes, but in this case, I'm using double quotes. So this f character over here must come straight away before the quotes over here. So then inside these quotes over here, by using curly brackets, you can use any variable that you want to mix in this sentence over here. Now with this, we have come to the end of this lecture. So in this lecture, we have learned rounding in Python, floor division in Python, and f-strings in Python, which are very helpful for number manipulation and string manipulation. So see you in the next lecture.